Which finding from Washington and Mullinthan's study, if true, would most directly weaken the claim made by people who favor the traditional view of voter behavior? Political scientists who favor the traditional view of voter behavior claim that voting in an election does not change a voter's attitude toward the candidate in that election. Focusing on each U.S. presidential election from 1976 to 1996, Eponia Washington and Sendil Mullinthan tested this claim by distinguishing between subjects who had just become old enough to vote, around half of whom actually voted, and otherwise similar subjects who were slightly too young to vote, and thus none of whom voted. Washington and Mullinthan compared the attitudes of the groups of subjects toward the winning candidate 2 years after election. So the claim here is that the traditional voter behavior claim is that voting in an election does not change a voter's attitude toward the candidates in that election. So option A says, subjects' attitudes toward the winning candidate 2 years after a given election were strongly predicted by subjects' general political orientation, regardless of whether subjects were old enough to vote at the time of the election. This is incorrect because this supports the traditional view of voter behavior, where it says that voting in an election does not change a voter's attitude toward candidates in that election, and A shows how the student subject's attitude did not change over the 2 years, so A is incorrect. B. Subjects who were not old enough to vote in a given election held significantly more positive attitudes towards the winning candidate 2 years later than they held at the time of election. This is incorrect because this only considers subjects who were not old enough to vote and does not consider those who were old enough to vote, so B is incorrect. C. Subjects who voted in a given election held significantly more polarized attitudes towards the winning candidate 2 years later than subjects who were not old enough to vote in that election. This seems to be the correct answer because this weakens the claim made by people who favor the traditional view of voter behavior, because it shows that voting in an election does change a voter's attitude towards the candidates in that election, because it made them more polarized. It gave them more polarized attitudes toward the winning candidates, so C seems to be the correct answer. D. 2 years after a given election, subjects who voted and subjects who were not old enough to vote were significantly more likely to express negative attitudes than positive attitudes toward the winning candidate in that election. This is incorrect because this does not focus on a single subject's change in voter attitude when they vote in an election, so D is incorrect. The correct answer is C.